Welcome back to a brand new season of the ADHD Kids Can Thrive podcast. I'm your host, Kate Brownfield, a certified ADHD parent coach. And I believe that families raising kids with ADHD can thrive. One of the most powerful ways we do that is by understanding ADHD more deeply. What's really going on in your child's brain? What's really going on with you as a parent? What's driving the hard moments? And what helps your family feel more steady and connected? Because the truth is, no child and no family walks in this path in the exact same way, and you don't have to figure it out alone. I'm really glad you're here. I hope you learned something new today that you can carry straight into your real life at home. All right, let's get into it. Enjoy the show. Hi, Diane. I am thrilled to have you as my guest today. And before we dive in, I'm going to introduce Diane Gutierrez, who is a friend, a mother, and a wife to loved ones living with dyslexia and ADHD, and co-founder of Cognition Labs. Cognition Labs was founded around the need to support people with visual-perceptual differences, and it affects millions of people, leading to isolation, poor health, and higher dropouts and prison rates. Cognition Labs transforms text from files, books, notes, and even scanned images to meet unique visual needs. With 15-plus adjustable text settings, it enhances reading and supports learning without hassle. Sounds really cool. Okay, so I asked Diane to join me, and she's coming with two hats. She's coming with one as the co-founder of Cognition Labs, and then we're going to move into asking her to put on her hat as a mother and wife to a whole bunch of neurodiverse individuals that are all now, for the most part, adults. And so she has a lot of learned wisdom that she has agreed to share with us today. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. Thank you, Kate. It's always so nice to be with you and see you.
Yeah, thank you.
This opportunity.
I know. This is going to be a good one. Okay, so let's start with your cognition hat on, business owner, developing a product to help people who struggle with reading. Can you tell us a little bit more like how you got into this and what the mission is for the company?
Absolutely. I got into this company as a mom who was testing her children for learning differences. And Pat Henry, who is the founder of the company, tested our children, starting with my third child, who was a classmate with your son. And over the years, she has been tutoring as well as opening learning centers and has a rich experience. And ultimately, she came across an idea when she would used to retype books for kids with dyslexia and or reading differences. And in the middle of the night, she had her aha moment. It's like, oh my gosh, a computer can do this, because she would chapter by chapter retype a book
That's
for
amazing.
the child to better understand and learn in a different way. Because what she has found out, and as have I, and what is really not addressed so much with the dyslexic brain, is that visual component where we have to adjust to the text and the text doesn't have to adjust to us.
Yeah.
And that is something that we found with all of these different transformations, that you can better understand and comprehend and read in a different way. So we're taking the load off the person and putting it onto the text, because the person isn't what's the problem. It's the printing press that you must read in this particular way. So.
Incredible. That's incredible that she was retyping text too for children before technology. That's a very committed professional to helping children read. And this leads me to my question, because there was a thing about kids needed just glasses and that would support their ability to read the text.
Mm.
And so I love now you're developing a product that changes the text so the child where adult can read better, comprehend better.
And, in our roadmap is our glasses, but they're the glasses that you can't the AI glasses that you can look at anything and have the text transform for you, being hands-free also. So we're
Oh,
moving
you're
into
developing
that direction.
glasses too?
We're not going to be developing the glasses, we're developing the technology that can go onto, like, the Meta glasses and the Google glasses, not and, you can wear them and read, without having to take a picture and or download, you know, a certain PDF or whatever it is that you're looking or book. You can just look at the item and have it changed in real time.
Through your Google Glasses. This is amazing.
Yeah, that's what our goal is. So
Okay. Okay. So I have to ask if anybody I'll put the website at the bottom of or, like, in the show notes, but it's called Cognition Labs if anybody wants to pursue kind of more detail about what that is doing. Because there's an app right now that people can get, and then you're also going into
we're going into web-based by the end of this month. We'll have a web-based platform where you can just put it onto your computer and you can transform whatever it is that is on your computer to your perceptual needs. We are trying to work with books or publishers to have encrypted books be able to be downloaded once you purchase that book. But if you have a PDF file of a book, you can transform that into reading if it's something that you have purchased.
want
And
some support. So, do people just play around with it to figure out what resonates with them?
yeah, yes. I mean, we have an onboarding platform where it's almost like an ophthalmological. Do you like it this way? Do you like it that way? Is this better for you or is that better for you? And then, the big, you know, most popular pieces are syllabication. We have our proprietary dyslexic syllabication to help break out words. We also have a standard syllabication. The confusable letters, the BDPQ, those confusable, there's 4 sets of them. You can capitalize them, and once you capitalize them, it's never confused because the lowercase is in relation to your body, and you can't once it's uppercase, it doesn't go along with your body. So you remember they used to do ED, this way when
Yes.
they were
Yes.
teaching our children, that you don't have to do that.
That's incredible. Okay, and I'm just gonna ask you because this is to focus on kids with the visual perceptual differences, which I guess shows up as dyslexia. But if with kids with just ADHD and no learning, a lot of them, because of the executive functioning that's involved in the task of like reading in academics, does this take the load off of that?
It does.
Okay.
The cognitive load by not having to put into what you're trying to read and comprehend is it is a lot. It, it's I'm sorry for my so it releases the cognitive load of trying to figure it out and then comprehend it and then
Yeah.
remember it.
Yeah. Yeah.
For instance, I can give you I have Mario, our son, who is our most dyslexic child. He tried out the application in college. We had him test it, and we were driving across the Bay Bridge, coming back from his first year at school and not talking about particularly anything. And then all of a sudden, he's like, Mom, thank you so much for making this app. It really helped me a lot. I learned, I understood more. It just helped me read faster. I got more out of the text that I was able to comprehend in a better way. And he was our child that spent 8 years in formal school for dyslexia, and he even saw the value in it.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty amazing. Okay. Good work, Diane.
Thank you.
Good work. Okay, so let's change hats here. And now I'd like you to put on your mother hat because you have had years of raising children who are neurodiverse with that's including ADHD, and you've been doing this for quite a while. So I just asked you to come and share just your words of wisdom that you could share with parents who are in the middle of it, trying to figure out how to find hope that the journey gets better as they get older and we can survive chaos, chaotic moments, if you will. You've got great stories. Okay, so let's travel back in time a little bit. And as you reflect back, what sticks in your mind the most as you think about this part of your life and how far you and your family have come?
I often say the days are long, but the years are short. And you have to meet everything with a sense of humor when you can. That because in my family, I am the one who does not have ADHD. So I'm the odd man out. My husband and all 4 children have ADHD, and I even say sometimes my dog has ADHD.
Of course.
So it and there's different levels in which they have it. And in my husband's family, he wasn't diagnosed until he was an adult. He was in his 40s because our children were coming up with it. Mario was the first, and the first in of which went through the entirety of Eddie's family. Nobody knew what ADHD was or what that they even had it. So it was a blessing because we were able to lean in and support it and understand it in a different way. And but it was really hard when Mario was diagnosed because he was diagnosed with ADHD before he was diagnosed with dyslexia.
Yeah.
So trying to understand what he needed as an infant and a small child, because he has a very severe case of ADHD, that was challenging, and the impulsiveness and the, trying to give him and support him in what he needed.
Yeah.
And then, as you go on, I'm lucky my children are all 4 years apart. The girls are the 2 oldest ones in the family, and girls know how to hide things differently than boys.
Yeah.
So they always have had it, but just were able to, you know,
Mask it.
control in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you came up with like 13 little tidbits of wisdom. I asked you if you had any kind of wisdom that you would share. We got 13 little tidbits. So let's go through them just kind of one by one and we'll talk about them.
Right?
Okay. So let's start with your first insight.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to why don't you, I would say love the person and not the checklist, basically. The progress in ADHD matters, but, supporting your child is the most important thing when
Yeah.
you're first learning about this, I've found with anything that's neurodivergent, it can be scary and not understanding it.
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't understand it. I didn't even know what it was, when he was diagnosed. I mentioned to you, I was handed a Xerox paper. This is, 15 plus years ago. So, hey, here's your little handout,
Down.
and why don't you go read about that? So it was something entirely new, trying to understand it. And,
What do you mean by the checklist? The checklist of
uh,
what ADHD is or
it, you know, we as people tend to have an idea of how we want our lives to go, and what's expected, and not everybody fits in that frame. in that box, if you will. So, like you must, do well in school and then you're going, everybody's different, but you have your own family ideas of where you want your child to be successful or how you want them to be successful. And I would say in the little things are what matters, not like, I've had parents like, my child's gonna go to this school and that school and this college and they're going to end up being a doctor or whatever. You can't live life in that manner, especially with kids that are neurodivergent, as it is just in their experience in school, particularly even in preschool, trying to hold it together Mhm. for a day. And, they can't go along with the class because they need to stand up or they need to walk around or they don't understand the directions that to support them, maybe they don't need to go to that particular school if possible, because that's not what's good for what they need,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I understand that. Okay. What's next here?
Let's see. Motivation for my kids and my husband come from meaning, so not pressure. And I often am told that I pressure, and to give an example, my one son, my youngest, is supposed to take a practice SAT. He's had 6 weeks to figure that out and practice it, and he needs that particular, you know, runway of, he needs to think about when it's going to happen, and now it's come up, and he's going to take it on the last day, and he's upset about it because he has to take it on the last day, but we've had 6 weeks, and I don't I badger if I sit come on, come on, it's just going to even go further south and
Yeah.
not happen.
Okay. So that's a perfect example. So do you just put it the calendar, put it on the calendar and you give him that space
Yes,
to
it's
live
like,
that out and not
what day yeah, what day looks good for you? How can I support you? And but this is the last day. No, and, for the weekends, he needs some video game time before he can, lock into something that is academic. He needs his downtime or he needs to be able to work out and then come
ready.
into
Yeah.
the space.
Yeah. And so you accommodate that. That's a good one, Diane, because it's balancing putting pressure on them and also allowing them the space to maybe base to fail, right? Or not do as well as they wanted to do because and your son's in high school now, so he's, like, at that age too where you're trying to be less mom, more give him a little bit more agency over his life.
Right. Yes. But when they were younger, and they had a schedule, and let's say, there was just too much going on in one particular week, I allowed for, okay, you don't have to go to Boy Scouts tonight. Even though you're supposed to go to Boy Scouts tonight, we're not going to Boy Scouts tonight. You need a day off. You need to rest to get that overload kind of under control.
Yeah.
So, you do different things at different stages, um, in their, coming into different ages.
Yeah.
The structure is important. I think that, but allowing them to have a voice. The other thing we do, which eh, all of our kids, friends got a little jealous of, is we give them a mental health day once a semester. You can pick it, you know,
Okay, that's a good one. Every
and
semester, what's a mental health day look like?
that looks like them just, as they would say, rotting, doing whatever they wanted to do.
And would it be on a day that's school like, they wouldn't go to
It would
school
be a
that
school
day?
day.
Okay.
They picked the day. They would wake up or they'd plan it the night before. It's not their birthday. It's, this is something entirely different. They are like, "I just need a break. I need a day off." And
Yeah,
we
that's
allow
great.
for that.
Yeah. One time a semester?
One time a semester. We don't, like, say, "Okay, you can have 2 and 3." No, it's one time a semester, so make it the best time for you.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Okay, what else comes to mind?
And for anybody, it doesn't matter if they're neurodivergent or not, but I think to be consistent is better than perfection. I think especially with girls, they really put pressure on themselves to be perfect, and social media too, and boys also. But, a little thing for that's helped my husband who, just lived by whatever worked for him. He had no idea what was going on with him. So we have a bowl next to our front door. That's where the keys go and the wallet goes, and that he just knows that that's my space. I need that little bowl to, and that's where I'm going to find things because it's consistent and he won't lose what he's trying to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's a great one. And what did you mean with the girls to be consistent?
The girls to be consistent, they're better at structure. But they to be consistent with them is, I think, looking at it is helping them value who they are, and know who they are, and not get wrapped up in who somebody else is, or it's in letting them know that they're unique in their own way.
Yeah, and not the standard of perfectionism that comes with being a teen girl.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you reinforce that in them, Diane?
That's a good question. I am not entirely sure, Kate. Just we tell them all that we're really blessed to be are a very close knit family, so we communicate a lot and we talk a lot, and we just let them know their value. It doesn't mean that it's a straight line or linear. It is, we've had our highs and we've had our lows, and especially when we've had the lows, and, which is okay. It's just how do you support that? And for us, have the blessing of being able to employ therapists, and letting them have a safe space where they can go and talk things out and make sure that, they're being supported.
Yeah, that's a great one. And supported at home too, right? Clearly from you and your husband that they're valued and that they can recover
Yeah.
from the highs and lows of life.
Yes, for sure. And mental health is so important. I know I wrote this to you. You pay now or you pay later. And if you can support your child in any kind of therapeutic mental health, I highly recommend it because it really gives a child a space where they are able to connect and be and process their thoughts
Yeah.
and feelings.
Okay, so let me ask you on that one, just because I know parents are always struggling with kind of the nuance of that. Like, so we're talking mainly about ADHD, and most people have more than just ADHD. Some have just ADHD. Sometimes there's other things going on, but I think parents are kind of trying to navigate, therapy doesn't really work on the things that ADHD brings with the executive functioning piece, but then ADHD can change your mental health for like, where is that line when you decide as a parent, this is time to call in reinforcement for some therapeutic support versus just trying to support them on getting through the day to day with their executive functioning?
It's a really good question. And for best for our girls. And, and I've had Mario also has had a therapist too. With Mario, his therapy started, with COVID. I mean, that there was the isolation piece and spending high school online, and, you know, there he needed support in a different way. With the girls, I think, everyday life and society can be tricky with girls, and feeling supported with other girlfriends, and not to mention their friends are going through their own things,
Yes. Yeah.
and so it's, it can be confusing, and understanding what to when a child says, I need help, and if I can't provide that help for them, I sought it out. I mean, that came
Okay.
right
That's
away
great.
with
Yeah.
Mario and his dyslexic, and school journey. That's just how I roll. But I have found, though, having that additional piece, if if your child is acting out, or if they're isolating themselves, or if they're not acting themselves, and you feeling like you can't connect with them, or they're not you're not getting everything from them, to introduce and say, hey, listen, would it be helpful for you, depending on their age. Yeah, if they're in high school, even just starting with the school counselor is
Yeah. Some
a
help.
place.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
connect and talk.
Yeah. Or if the grades are going down and you don't really understand why, or they don't understand why,
Yeah.
that's a place to begin. And then, be present as much as you can. I mean, that doesn't mean that you're going into therapy session with them, but you're when they're a minor, you're bringing them and allowing, you're seeking out that person for them, so you're involved in some capacity,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
But,
Yeah.
and, sometimes therapy, depending, it might not be the right therapist, and it's okay to switch therapists as well, But with ADHD, I think that in particular, in my case, that because it is because of the way ADHD presents itself, it's harder for that child to be in a school or in a place where most other kids don't have any kind of neurodivergent, but or maybe you do, maybe some do and some don't, or more don't, but in the classroom or in social settings, it could be very difficult for that person to even just, have a social connection with somebody,
Yeah.
and having a coach to help them with that, and or, a therapist to help them understand, well, maybe if this is different, or how do you navigate that, or how do you process what you're feeling is
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. That's good, Diane. I like too how you said when you're connected to your child and you're supporting and valuing and helping them get through. But when you start to sense that things are getting bigger than something as parents is too much to maybe handle, that's a good, like, that's the indicator maybe to seek outside support.
And I would say the same thing for parents too.
Yeah,
You have to put your mask on first before you can help
that's
your,
true. Not
you know,
always easy to do, but important.
right. But if you're trying to handle it all and not having your own support, and, I thank you, because when we first met, we had that group
Yeah, we
setting
had a good
support.
group of friends that could support each
Yeah.
other. Significantly it was a significant resource of
It
help
was.
to find other moms and dads who are living similar lives.
Hmm. And, these places do exist, and if they don't, create your own.
Yeah.
But, you know, even on Facebook, there are groups that you can join to get additional, you know, help from other people who are going through
Yeah. Yeah.
the things.
Yep. Do not discount that resource of just being with other women and men who are struggling as well. It's very uplifting. It's a survival strategy.
It is, and you get good
And I'm so
ideas,
grateful
and
for all of it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Diane, what else comes to mind? I've lost track of where we're at, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Just share
Yeah.
kind of your thoughts that are coming to mind.
Well, I would say structure is reduces stress, but, and gives them safety, if you will, you don't have to be structure and discipline are 2 different things, and to create a structure that works and a balance that works for each individual child, and they're all different, that's
Yeah.
important, and, that's a learn as you go kind of thing, or, some of it we do have our non-negotiables, but, I think that's important for any kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say, and I've seen this, and it comes with not understanding and being misunderstood is that, to offer any kind of shame to a child or, it just it blocks growth the social emotional damage that comes from it it can be, a life thing that
Yeah.
someone lives with that is not positive. And I think that especially now with neurodivergent being more recognized, I mean, it's not fully supported and it's always a fight even within systems.
Yeah.
But, I think it's coming up with people like you with the podcast and writing books and, offering wisdom, but I think we have a lot to do. That's the same thing with, what I do with dyslexia, but we have to be generous in our praise and not shame,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah. And be advocates too in our
yeah,
communities, right?
advocate all the time. And that doesn't mean that it's for your child in school. That means that speak up if somebody asks the question. Don't be afraid, to say, hey, have you thought about this? Or if you thought about testing it. What I say to people all the time, and I get people asking me quite a bit, especially when their children are, there's something being presented in the school and they don't understand it. And, with their child and the schools saying something that isn't right. And I wrote to you too is I don't understand why we don't research our children's brains on the regular, for testing not to be something that is mandatory thing. I often say the best money I have ever spent is getting a test for our children and having them tested. And my oldest daughter wasn't tested until her sophomore year in college because she was a great student. She didn't, and she ended up with a concussion and had a really difficult time. And 2 out of 4 of our children were already tested and then some. And I'm like, "You know what? I'm just gonna have you tested." And we found out things we had no idea about,
Yeah.
and it's a blessing to be able to it's not it hopefully the prices will come down, and there are just simple tests now online you can do to try and find something that might, give you information. And in the public school system, that can be a tricky situation, but, to be able to have your child tested is important to
Yeah.
understand how their brain works. That's the largest organ we have. Don't look at it enough.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. That is true. I wish school would just automatically kind of be a little bit more, less rigid and a little bit just more accommodating to all
Mhm.
brains, and I think that would maybe take the pressure off a little bit.
Mhm. Absolutely. That comes also there, with people advocating, parents advocating, and that's where the parents' voice is super important and coming together as a group
Yeah,
to make that change, and it oftentimes means, you know, fighting for it.
yeah,
That's how change happens, you know?
yeah, and schools due for change and evolution. It's just
Yeah.
it's past due, it's time for things to kind of change and evolve with the way kids are wired. Okay, Diane, anything else come to mind?
Well, progress isn't linear, so, it can be a bumpy road sometimes, but it's just keep at the consistency, and you can't want it more than they do, It's just that they get into overload and overwhelm and needing that, you know, mental health day, if you will, and just giving them time and space, I think is important.
Yeah, they need more downtime than a typical
Mhm.
kid. Yeah, and I love what you say to just stay consistent. Progress isn't linear. That's a good one because I think as parents, we get so stuck in the moments where progress isn't looking very positive. It's not
Mhm.
looking positive. But if you do stay consistent, I like what you said. Things kind of, what is it? One step forward, two steps back, kind of a
Mhm.
dance.
Yeah. And to go along with that, I mean, it could be another point, but rest isn't a requirement. It's a requirement, not a reward.
To
They
rest.
to rest. It's and that's just for anybody.
Yeah.
You need to rest. You need to sleep. You need to take care of your body and your mind. And it's not always easy, but and it looks different for everybody. But rest is essential.
Yeah. Yep.
And when they're holding it together, especially children in school all day, and then, exercise also, my fourth child is an athlete. And if he would be on a golf course and he'd want to run the golf course. And my husband's like, you have to wait. I'm like, let him run. If you want him to hold it together until the next shot, let him run to the ball, if he needs to run it out, And so it's being flexible in that regard. But
That's
um,
awesome. Yeah. It's great advice.
that's an exercise really helps the brain, and I believe in there are more people who are scientific than I, but yeah, it really does matter.
Yeah.
The ADHD brain,
Yeah. And you find it helped with regulation.
absolutely,
Yeah.
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 It,
Yeah.
it, it, it just it's almost like a reset for a
Yeah.
little bit. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, what else? You already know this, but ADHD affects families, not just people living with ADHD. Um, I'm the minority in my family, so and I told you this already, but our kids are and my husband are all on medication, and so they're on it and they're off it. They self-regulate when they're on it and when they're off it, you know, which is fine. When they need it, they take it, and it helps them focus in a different way. But when they're all off it, I say my house levitates, depending on
You know,
what energy is going through, and you can see it's like off its foundation. But
so how do you stay grounded in all of that?
it's humor.
Yeah, I love that.
And taking breaks. It's like, I'm going to the store. It's like, that's I need groceries right now, like right now. But, a funny story was, we were our daughter was in college at the time, we were driving out from San Diego to San Francisco, and I had all 3 I had my husband and the 2 boys in the car, and we were stuck in traffic for a while, and we got to a place, and, like, "We need to pull over," and I couldn't get out of the car fast enough because they were just, constant, uh, distraction and, comments and
Reverberating. Yeah.
yes, I'm like, this needs I need a break. I need a 15-minute break. I'm gonna get something to drink, and then we can go back on the road. So, but,
Okay.
you
See,
know,
yeah.
yeah,
You're very
yeah.
patient too, Diane.
Oh, thank you. No, it helps. What else can I say? The other thing too with adults, there are plenty of adults listening, and maybe their children are they're finding out that their child has ADHD. I can speak to how it went with my husband because he is a financial planner and he's dealing with numbers all day long, and he, was working the market most of his career, and, you know, after our second child was diagnosed, he went into the doctor and he sat down and he's like, "Why am I sitting here? This is what's going on in my family." And then the doctor took him through some questions, and he's like, "You have ADHD too," and he's like, "Why didn't I know this?" And the doctor is like, "Oftentimes it starts with the child, and then I'll see a parent for sure, and then sometimes I even see grandparents, and they all start, understanding how they, made it work for them in life." But then he started on his medication, and the first day he took the medication, he was at work, and he called me at work, and he's like, he would go to work at 5:30 in the morning. He called me by 10, and usually he would be coming home around 3 o'clock. He called me around 10 in the morning. He's like, "So I'm done for the day," because it just
Oh,
he
that's
focused and
amazing.
went right through what it usually took him hours, you know,
Wow. Yeah.
and I mean, and on top of it, he learned of his dyslexia late in life too. So, I mean, between ADHD and then dyslexia, I'm trying to navigate both under one roof, and it's a lot to in your cognitive load to try and manage.
Oh, yeah. Both when you have learning disabilities and
Mhm.
ADHD. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, for him to be able to understand, okay, is this is something that's very real for me as an adult. It has been life changing for him in understanding, and also for him in how he, approaches either work or any other situation that he needs to focus.
In his life. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty amazing, Diane.
Yeah.
You're like a figurehead now of surviving all the big waves that come with raising a neurodiverse family. It can be done, and you can
Challenging.
be in one place. You can still be a healthy family as the kids grow up. It can be maintained.
Yes, it can. And,
Family health.
and again, finding your group, finding your people to go through it with you too, that's to have support and to, I've ended up getting into the business because I want the people to, have a different opportunity that my own family didn't have. And there's I think that as we learn more about ADHD and dyslexia, that there are different ways to help and support and make it a better place for the child,
Yeah,
growing up with it.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love what you're doing with Cognition Labs. I think that's incredible.
Thank
I mean,
you. I'm
that's
very
really where there's some positive progress being made, and
well,
taking what was the owner's name? What was your tutor's name?
Pat Henry.
Oh, Pat Henry. What she was
Mhm.
just doing by herself, little by
Mhm.
little, for one child at a time, is now able to just kind of, it is able to expand. Does it do different languages too?
Well, we will be going into different languages, yes. Right now we're in English, and what the fun thing we found out about our solution is it also is helping English as a second language learners because we colorize vowels also. And so in the English language, you can say A, the long sound of A, and it's spelled 8 different ways. So every time you see, the red in the text, it's the long sound of A. So different things like that have been helpful to the ESL students. But 1 in 5 people are dyslexic and mostly undiagnosed. And as you mentioned in the introduction, more than 50% of the incarcerated cannot read above the second, third grade level and or cannot read at all. So if they come out of jail and the recidivism rate and they cannot read, they're going to go, oftentimes they go back,
Yeah.
because they cannot get a job or, you know, live life with being able to read. So this is a great travesty in our society. And then, most of the billionaires that we know, they are neurodivergent and most often dyslexic. So it's interesting. It's how they find their, work within their neurodivergence, and they can be very successful too.
Right. We see them in both ends, all parts of our society. Okay, Diane, thank you for this. This was wonderful.